Thanks to BetterHelp for sponsoring this video.
Look at me! You did this!
Hey, what's up? Welcome to ScreenCrush. I'm Ryan Airy, and let's talk about the Easter eggs, references, and little things you might have missed in the final episode of Secret Invasion.
And here we go.
So for the most part, I'm going to keep my opinions to myself about this episode just so we can focus on the breakdown. There is a lot of good to focus on in this finale, and the episode does set up some very interesting repercussions for the MCU, like sets up new teams and directly sets up Captain America Brave New World. In a couple of days, we will have a review video out, but in the meantime, let's break this baby down. The episode begins in the aftermath of Priscilla and Gaia fighting off the Skrulls in the Fury home.
Oh yeah, that fight where shape-shifting aliens broke in loudly through glass windows.
Yep, that's the one. One of the strongest aspects of this show is the relationship between Nick and Vara. Samuel L. Jackson and Charlene Woodard are able to imbue these characters with an easy, lived-in energy, even though we're mostly hearing about their relationship and haven't seen it develop over other movies and shows. They feel like a real married couple. Fury says,
I have dialed this number 1,000,000 times.
And the episode sheds some light on why Fury went to the space station alone and didn't bring his wife. Later on, Gaia as Fury says,
You know, the last thing I felt before I flaked off, relief.
Now, this was Gaia pretending to be Fury, so we don't really know if this is how Fury actually felt, but it would make sense that he just wanted to put the Skrulls behind him, and that would include his wife. After all, he spent years and years lying to the Skrulls, using them. And if he was lying to the Skrulls, then that means he was lying to his wife for over a decade.
But why couldn't Fury find the Skrulls a home? Aren't there like hundreds of planets out in the galaxy?
Well, in this past video we did, we speculated that the reason for that was twofold. One, they needed to find a planet that was far away from the Kree Empire. And two, there would be a lot of anti-Skrull, anti-shape-shifting sentiment out there in the universe. I mean, think about it. In episode 2, we learned that the Skrulls used to be a very war-mongering race.
We did not end up homeless refugees because we were unwilling to wage war. We ended up homeless refugees because we were too willing.
And it's pretty obvious why you wouldn't want a shape-shifting race on your world. They could replace you and take over your planet. The Skrulls probably did this for centuries before their disastrous war with the Kree. Now, one cool thing about this show is the focus on Nick Fury, who is kind of like the MCU's Batman, who now has kind of lost his mojo.
The fact that you don't know tells me all I need to know about this new, rather old Nick Fury.
He has no powers. He's not an alien. He's just an exceptional human being with an exceptional tactical mind. But what really sets this series apart is how it dives into what makes Fury human. His life is filled with mistakes and traumas. We see a broken man, someone who cannot cope with his own failures and regret. And that makes him so relatable because everybody in the world has faced difficult times and trauma like this. I mean, I know I have. I have gone through very dark times in my life when I just hated myself and I couldn't see a way out. But therapy can help. And a lot of you may want therapy, but you feel like it's too expensive or too far away or you don't know how to get started. And that is where BetterHelp comes in. They're the sponsor of this video. BetterHelp listens to your needs and helps match you with your own licensed therapist. Now, this is not a crisis line or self-help. It is professional therapy done securely online. Like, I'm from a rural area where it's really hard to find therapists, so BetterHelp is perfect with a network of more than 30,000 licensed therapists who can help you with a wide range of problems. It's the world's largest therapy service and it's 100% online. To get started, you just answer a few questions about your needs and therapy preferences. That way, BetterHelp can match you with a custom-picked therapist from their network. It's very accessible. You can log into your account at any time and send messages straight to your therapist. Plus, you can schedule weekly phone or video sessions so you won't have to sit in uncomfortable waiting rooms. But if your therapist isn't right for you, BetterHelp makes it easy to switch. BetterHelp wants you to start living a happier life today. It's more affordable than traditional offline therapy, and financial aid is available. And we have a special offer for ScreenCrush fans. Click the link in the description to get 10% off your first month at BetterHelp. That's HELP.com/ScreenCrush. Now back to what I was saying.
Anyways, Fury calls to tell Vara goodbye as we intercut between our two storylines in this episode. One is Gaia's attack on the compound that she used to call home, and the other is the hilarious standoff between Fury, Ritson, Sonya, and Rhodey. Now, knowing now that it's Gaia and not Fury walking to the base hits a little bit harder. Gaia believed in this place. She trained and recruited soldiers for Gravik's war in this place, so she knows exactly how to breach their defenses. First, she walks by Beto's corpse. Now, this is on the same spot where we saw Gravik slit his throat last episode. And this is a real heartbreaker for Gaia. I mean, after all, she recruited Beto. She brought him into this life. And then she sees that Gravik has apparently killed all the Skrulls that worked for him. him.
Why'd he do that?
Well, they staged a coup against him, and this shows that Gravik never really cared about the Skrull people. They were just tools for him to get what he wanted, more power and revenge on Fury. Gaia also knows where all the cameras are in the compound, so she's very careful to keep up the old man Fury act, stopping to cough and take iodine pills to protect against the radiation. Back at the most understaffed hospital on the planet, Sonya tells Rhodey that Fury is closing in. She does this to panic Rhodey so he'll move the president.
Why wouldn't he just keep the president in that room, surrounded by security?
Because Sonya needed to pick off the security one at a time.
Oh, okay. I don't really understand, but you're the human. You seem to know what stuff is. Okay.
So Rhodey was arguing with an admiral about ordering an attack on Russia, and the admiral says that the motorcade attack could have been a false flag operation.
What's a false flag?
Well, a false flag is just what it sounds like. It's when a country's military wears another country's uniform and then attacks a third country to kick off a war between countries 2 and 3. The Nazis employed a similar tactic to justify their invasion of Poland. Kingsley Ben-Adir gets his time to shine as Gravik, especially this line.
This face. This was the first human I killed.
Man, like, I loved all this stuff. Gravik was a very well-nuanced villain. Him taking on the face of his first victim is a way of connecting all of his crimes to Fury's original sin. All of this is only happening because Fury used the Skrulls as soldiers and didn't keep his word. As Gravik said,
And everyone I killed took a little piece out of my heart.
gut-wrenching. Gravik also mentions Fury's invisible cloak, which probably refers to the stealth mode on the helicarrier. Then Gaia lures him into the middle of the chamber. Now remember, Gravik would never suspect that she is actually Fury because he has no idea that Gaia is alive. And also, Fury is his weakness. His hatred for Fury blinds him and makes him put himself in a very vulnerable position. Now notice the floor of the chamber almost looks like a star chart. Pretty neat detail since Gravik believes that getting powers will lead to the Skrulls finding a new home on Earth. Now, even though this is not the real Fury, he does land a line that really hits at the heart of the show.
Because it's easier to save the lives of 8 billion people than it is to change their hearts and minds.
This connects to Fury talking about growing up in segregated Alabama in episode 2. He's seen firsthand how humanity is blinded by racism and hatred.
Coming out of Alabama, we always had to ride in the color car.
And this episode's ending proves him right. Anti-Skrull paranoia has erupted all over the planet.
Yeah, but shouldn't that have been part of the show? That would have been so cool.
Yeah. Then he says,
Do you know why I came back to Earth? You were the youngest Skrull on my team.
and this is very clever. Gaia has no idea if that's true or not, but this is what Gravik would want to hear. He would want to hear that Fury thinks that Gravik is so important to him, because Fury is all Gravik thinks about. For Gravik, it's also poetic justice that he's getting the DNA of Carol Danvers. After all, she was the one who promised to find his people a home, but instead of using her powers to help the Skrulls, she spent a generation out in the cosmos helping others. Replicating the powers of the heroes was a major part of the Secret Invasion comic book. The Skrulls imprisoned the entire Illuminati, conducting experiments on them to learn how to replicate their abilities. Now, we should have known that this wasn't Fury, though, when he said this.
Wipe out some other species, I don't give a damn.
And then back to the hospital for what I kind of think is the low point for the MCU.
Give me your gun, goddammit.
That's not good, person.
Look, okay, I guess this particular president just feels better if he has a gun. Now, I'm sure they just needed him to get a gun so we could have that big standoff at the end, but maybe, I don't know, like this bodyguard could have been shot and then his gun could have fallen on the gurney or something. It is also weird that Ritson is in a gurney instead of in a wheelchair, but one thing this scene does sell really well is how much of a stupid idiot Ritson is. I mean, if the whole point of this show is to show that this guy is a terrible president who will soon be replaced by Harrison Ford in the movie Captain America Brave New World, then I get it. Hell, Fury basically tells us this is going to happen.
That's real one-term president stuff.
Alright, so then back to Gravik, where Gaia's master plan is about to unfold. She's in the middle of the chamber with Gravik, who has no idea that he's about to give her superpowers.
Hey, I have a question.
Yeah, Doug, what?
So her plan was to let Gravik make himself all-powerful, and then she was just hoping that he would have her stand in the middle of the machine too?
That's what we're going with. But let's not get too bogged down with the idea that she should have fought Gravik before he got all the powers of every MCU character ever. There is some fun cameos in here that include all of the DNA samples that Fury has collected, and not just the people who fought in the Battle of Earth. For instance, we see Ghost. He would have had her DNA because she was a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent for years. The names we see are Captain America, Corvus Glaive, Thanos, Outrider, Proxima Midnight, Captain Marvel, Abomination.
How'd he get his DNA?
Well, the Abomination was held captive by S.H.I.E.L.D. for years. Then there's Mantis, Cull Obsidian, Drax, Korg, Ebony Maw, Frost Beast, Hawk, Chitauri, Valkyrie, Thor Odinson, pretty cool to use his official full name there, Gamora, Florus Colossus, that's Groot by the way, and the Winter Soldier. over. And then Gaia and Gravik have a big fight where they run through a lot of these powers. And notice that these are only the heroes whose powers are tied directly to their DNA. Doctor Strange is not included because his abilities are a learned skill, and Wanda Maximoff is also not in the mix, even though she is the strongest Avenger. This is because her abilities are also mystical. The chaos magic of Chthon has turned her into
Scarlet Witch.
God, remember those days? Just such a high bar for the MCU. Well, this Ritz and gun scene, it's kind of a low bar. There's not a lot to break down in this scene, just a lot of people trying to convince Ritson that Rhodey is a Skrull. It would have been kind of cool if there was at least one scene where there were two identical people and Ritson didn't know who to shoot. But all of this is pretty much the old cliche, I'm not the imposter, he's the imposter kind of scene. Again, if the point of the scene is to show that Ritson is a stupid, weak president, mission accomplished. Let's go through the powers that Gaia and Gravik display in the fight, which was basically this scene with a lot of MCU Easter eggs thrown in.
All you had to do was go away! Stop standing in the driveway talking about custody!
First, we see the Extremis healing abilities. Gravik starts with one Groot arm and then a Cull Obsidian arm, going for just brute strength. Gaia counters with Drax's arm as Gravik uses super strength to throw a car. Now, I don't think he has the strength of like the Hulk, the Abomination, everybody combined. I think it's more like pick a power and use them one at a time kind of thing. Then Gaia uses Ghost Power to phase through the car as Gravik suddenly has the ear of the Abomination and the arm of Korg.
Man, they got good at using those powers really fast.
They sure did. Gaia uses the Frost Beast abilities to create an ice arm, and then she uses the powers of Captain Marvel to ram him. Now, as they're falling through the air here, it seems like he's using Thanos' strength against her. Like, look at his arm here. It looks very much like Thanos' arm. And she gains the upper hand by using the powers of Mantis.
Sleep.
Then she flies above him, striking a pose that is very Captain Marvel. After he wakes up, he uses the telekinetic powers of Ebony Maw. You remember, this guy.
Your powers are great. You must be popular with children.
When he uses Maw's telekinesis, he even makes like the same elegant hand gestures, flicking objects through the air. He also, for some reason, replicated Ebony Maw's rings. He creates a Hulk leg to kick her, and we've seen the Hulk kick like this before, like here against Emil Blonsky.
Is that what you got?
And also here. The Gaia gains the upper hand by going full Captain Marvel binary mode.
What does that mean?
Well, in the comics, for a time, Carol went by the name Binary, and she was this extremely powerful cosmic force whose eyes glowed. So, in the movie Captain Marvel, when she finally unlocked her full powers, we called that her binary mode, kind of like what Gaia does in this show. And then she does a superhero landing.
Superhero landing! Yeah, that's really hard on your knees.
They're still doing those, huh?
I guess so. And now Gaia is by far the most powerful Marvel character of all time, probably next to Wanda. Now overall, I like the Super Skrull battle. In the comics, the Super Skrull was originally a Skrull warrior with his DNA altered to give him the powers of the Fantastic Four. But over the years, there have been more and more Super Skrulls with different powers. And just like in the comics, they show their abilities by having them transform a part of their bodies, like their limbs or their arms, or like when Gaia grows Mantis's antenna. And then Gaia goes to free the humans that the Skrulls held captive. There's the doctor who invented the Skrull machine, the art dealer from a few episodes ago, and of course, Rhodey and Everett Ross. Now, we did not get the moment I was hoping for where Rhodey wakes up and says, "Where's Tony?" But we did get something interesting here. Rhodey can't walk, confirming that he was replaced after his accident in Civil War. So this meant that he could have been replaced before or after Avengers Endgame, so he may or may not know that Tony has died. Now, he may not be able to walk here, but remember, we saw Rhodey walking with leg braces in Infinity War and Endgame. Kevin Feige has said that Rhodey has been a Skrull for a while, but I'm guessing we'll find out more in the Armor Wars movie, if that's even still happening.
Who knows anything at this point?
Actually, Ryan, it's worth mentioning that Rhodey is wearing a hospital gown. Now, everyone else who's held captive here seems to be wearing whatever they had on when they were abducted by the Skrulls. So, we can assume that Rhodey was wearing this hospital gown when he was taken. So, when was Rhodey in the hospital? Well, Captain America Civil War, when Vision accidentally shot him down out of the sky. Rhodey fell down to the ground and was paralyzed. Now, when Rhodey wakes up in this holding chamber, we see him lean forward like he's about to start walking, almost as if he is unaware that he's paralyzed. So, I think that it's possible that this Rhodey has been sedated and held captive ever since that fall in Captain America Civil War and when he was undergoing surgery for that fall. If this is the case, that means that Skrull Rhodey was present for Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, which completely changes the way we'll look at those movies going forward.
That's a good point, Colton, thank you. So then Ritson way overreacts, publicly declaring Skrulls an enemy of Earth.
That is why tonight, I'm presenting to Congress for immediate emergency authorization a bill that designates all off-world born species enemy combatants.
Idiot! Go
go!
This is very similar to the ending of X2, X-Men United. That movie was going to end with the president making a speech decrying mutants until the X-Men stepped in to change his mind.
Good morning, Mr. President.
But in this case, Ritson sparks global chaos.
Now you got dumb.
Again, not the best president. We have a video coming out really soon about how this can set up Captain America Brave New World, a movie I am very excited for. I mean, think about it. Ritson has just created a chaotic world here. People assassinate politicians because they think they're alien lizard people. This, by the way, is the most realistic thing I've ever seen in the MCU, that people would become totally unhinged by this news. So of course, amidst all this chaos, a war hero like Thunderbolt Ross, played by Harrison Ford, would win in a landslide, promising to bring law and order to the entire planet. Very similar to how Norman Osborn rose to power after the Secret Invasion comics. If the world is paranoid, chaotic, then that's a recipe for the world governments to become authoritative and take greater control, which might explain why the original title of the Captain America 4 movie was New World Order. Anyways, Fury comes home, where Vara insists on finding out, does he love the real her or her human face?
Did you fall in love with me? Or the face that puts you at ease?
Which again speaks to the larger question here. Can Skrulls ever be accepted by humanity? If Fury can't accept Vara in her Skrull form, then there's hope that the rest of humanity can accept the Skrulls too. And by extension, we humans can accept one another as well. Really though, back to Ritson's decision to take revenge on the Skrulls, it seems like he was just embarrassed that Rhodey fooled him for so long and now he's acting out. Cause he's a dumbass.
Give me your gun, goddammit.
I mean, that gun scene was stupid, but it did show how he's the kind of guy who wants control. Just the kind of guy who would declare open season on Skrulls. So maybe the gun scene wasn't such a low bar. Let me know what you thought of that down in the comments below. And then Sonya meets up with Gaia.
I will use you, and you will use me, and together we'll make this planet safe for both our people.
Now, Sonya is basically trying to use Gaia and the remaining Skrulls like Fury did, as her agents, to bolster the power of her own government. Now, this might lead to Sonya forming MI-13. In the comics, this is a group of British superheroes and agents who are tasked with taking down paranormal threats. Other heroes have been teased who could be part of this team, for instance, like Dane Whitman's Black Knight.
Sure you're ready for that, Mr. Whitman?
I love the scene, though, of them discovering the bodies. Very Invasion of the Body Snatchers. It's a great way to show just how deep this conspiracy goes and how many Skrulls are loose on the surface of Earth. This image would have been very cool in an earlier episode where it would have actually mattered. Now, we do know that there will be some international heroes in Brave New World, like Sabra, so I'm actually hoping that Sonya or her team will come back in that movie. Olivia Colman has been my favorite part of this show.
The smart ones start talking earlier than that. You a smart one? Right, no, didn't think so. I'm very good at being your bestie. I'm also devilishly good at being not your bestie. It's really just a matter of taste. Cake or death.
In the final montage of the chaos, we see that the Prime Minister of Great Britain was back to being a human, but was then assassinated. And this council member, the good one who rebelled against Gravik, successfully fights off an assassination attempt, while Shooter McGavin was shot on air. Honestly, all of this is great, and really should have happened to episode 3 to raise the stakes of the series. And then, just as Fury is about to leave, Vara joins him, and Fury has some good news.
Kree said they're open to peace talks with the Skrulls.
Which is nice. It would mean that the Skrulls could stop running and maybe join their Emperor on New Skrullos. Now, we have seen the Kree sue for peace a lot in recent years. Guardians also began when they wrapped up their 100-year war against Xandar.
We signed your peace treaty, Nova Prime. What more do you want?
Also, apparently, Vara is a great diplomat.
You're the best diplomat the Skrulls have ever had.
Fury asks her to leave, but she says that her work here is too important.
Oh, my work is here, darling. And it's never been more important.
Wait, what work? What's her job? She growing plants?
I have no idea, dude. Kind of seems like that you immediately would say that peace with your people and their oppressors would take greater precedence over growing some plants in your greenhouse, but who can really say? We then get a very sweet scene where he embraces her true form.
I just wanted to tell you that I love you as I am.
Only as you are.
And then they kiss, giving hope that all of humanity could one day live in peace with the Skrulls. After all, if Nick Fury could eventually learn to love his wife of 10 years, then maybe all of humanity can learn to embrace a race of shape-shifting extraterrestrials that try to eradicate the planet with nuclear war.
Well guys, that's all the Easter eggs we caught, but if you found any, let me know in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe, smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.